John D. Keefauver. He wrote Tormented Virgin for Epic Books in 1962. Well, Keefauver is certainly too much of a mouthful to be a pseudonym, but I couldn't find another book by the man. Combing Epic book publisher David Zentner's magazines, I found a short by Keefauver in one from 1960 and bought it. Spring Revival is a story about an old maid, her senile father, and the woman's maid whose lifestyle her employer finds objectionable or envies. The writing style isn't typical of short stories in men's magazines. At risk of sounding like a snob, it's more literary in style. Poking around some more, I found Leth Press reprinted Tormented Virgin in 2019 with a new throwback cover. I downloaded the ebook. Checking out Leth's website, an independent publishing house specializing in the strange, the eerie, and uncanny, I noted the other erotic books they published were seemingly homoerotic, but not sapphic. Tormented Virgin, like Keefauver's short, is also somewhat atypical. Beware, if you order this reprint, do not read the intro first, as it's full of spoilers. That goes for most books though, doesn't it? Here's an excerpt that succinctly introduces the main characters and the drama. "You know, I go for Mickey and she's a lesbian." Jean was silent. "And you go for her too. You're attracted to a lesbian. Do you think that's very manly? She told me you two made love down at the beach the other night. Was she any good?" Faye smiled. "I don't blame you for making love to her. I'm certainly not doing you any good, except in that substitute way." Jean couldn't deny any of the things she had said, so he stayed silent. "And you're attracted to Mark, too. I can tell, the way you like to be around him so much. Do you think that's very manly?" She chuckled bitterly. "We make a fine pair, we do." While lesbianism is no stranger to the works of Epic, Jean's attraction to another man is not the usual fare one would find in adult books marketed to men, especially in the early 60s. This excerpt doesn't do justice to what Keefauver is capable of writing, as it's pretty straightforward. The women in this book are much more thoroughly carved out characters than the men, including the protagonist Jean. I won't go into too much detail about this one given that it's readily available. I will add that quote-unquote substitute way in the excerpt is a second subtle mention of fellatio that somehow Keefauver slipped by the censors of the day. Leth also published a collection of Keefauver's short stories in 2021. Look, there's our man. I purchased a hard copy of that. From the bonus material included in both the novel and short story collection, I learned that he made a living writing short stories. Over 900 were published, and research into marginal living contains 30. I also learned that John David Keefauver was born in Washington, D.C. in 1923. After serving in World War II and a stint as a reporter in Michigan, he settled in Carmel by the Sea on the central coast of California. One of the stories in the Keefauver collection that originally appeared in Omni, The Rocks That Moved, could potentially be deemed sci-fi. The characters reminded me of Stephen King characters. I'll put a link to this one in the description. The first selection in Marginal Living reveals that Keefauver had beatnik-esque origins. Originally appearing in Playboy in November of 1958, the poem Oh What the Hell is an homage to Lawrence Ferlinghetti's A Coney Island of the Mind, and the short that follows that is Pure Stream of Consciousness. One will not find Spring Revival from David Z's Caper though, but one will find many works that appeared in such magazines as Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And while he had a couple of unpublished novels in his files, there was only one other book that ever saw print, The 3-Day Traffic Jam from 1992, published by Simon & Schuster Books for Young Readers. In closing, here's Keefauver's niece digging into his files. We have her to thank for this newly reprinted work. Keefauver passed in Carmel in 2013, days after his 90th birthday.